This review is for Section 1 of the Geometry Mid-Year Assessment. Section 1 has 21 questions. Now, in order to not make this video too long, I have to go pretty quickly through the questions. And this PowerPoint is going to be uploaded to your Geometry Microsoft Teams page. You should download it before the exam and use it to study, as well as to aid you if you need any additional help on the exam. Sección 1 del examen tiene 21 preguntas. Este PowerPoint lo voy a subir a la página de Microsoft Teams de geometría y lo deben bajar antes del examen y usarlo para estudiar y para ayuda si lo necesitan durante el examen. Pero lo deben bajar antes del examen. No esperen hasta el día del examen para bajarlo. Don't wait till the day of the exam to download it. At the beginning, I have the transformation rules. For the sake of time, I'm not going to review them, but you have your reflection, rotation, and translation rules. You should look at that before the exam, because you're going to need them on quite a few questions. Aquí están las reglas para reflexiones, rotaciones y traslaciones. Deben mirar esto antes del examen. No tengo tiempo de repasar esto durante este video, pero hay varias preguntas que usan estas reglas. Also, here's a quick review of the graph of y equals x, that's this blue line, and the graph of y equals negative x, which is the red line, in case you need it for any questions. Recuerden que el gráfico de la ecuación y igual a x sería esta línea azul, y el gráfico de la ecuación y igual a negativo x sería la línea roja. Alright, here's our first question that we're going to look at. I'm going to tell you right now, if I put a question on the review, it is definitely on the exam. So if you see it on the review, it's because it is definitely on the exam. Si hay una pregunta en el repaso, eso es porque está en el examen. Todas las preguntas en este repaso están en el examen, pero yo les cambio los números, así que los números y las respuestas no son los mismos números. I'm changing the numbers, so it's not going to be the same numbers on the exam. Alright, so this question says if triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF, find the measure of angle D. Los dos triángulos son congruentes, tenemos que encontrar la medida de ángulo D. Alright, so if the two triangles are congruent, that means angle A, which is the first letter in this triangle, is equal to angle D, which is the first letter in this triangle. La primera letra aquí, ángulo A, es congruente a la primera letra en este triángulo que es ángulo D. So this angle equals this angle. Los dos son equivalentes. So here's the solution. Angle A is congruent to angle D, so substitute 5x plus 4 equals 4x plus 9 and solve for x. X equals 5. Now be careful because in the multiple choice there's a good chance that one of the answer choices would be 5. And if you choose that, you're wrong, even though you did that right. Because you need to remember that the question is asking you to find the measure of angle D, not to find the value of x. So after you find the value of x, now you got to substitute it for angle D to find out what the measure of angle D is by doing 4 times 5 plus 9, and that'll give you your final answer, which tells you that the measure of angle D is 29 degrees. Tengan cuidado cuando resuelven para x. Sí, x es igual a 5, pero es muy probable que en el examen te pongan una de las respuestas que sea 5 o cualquier valor que tenga x para los números que tiene en el examen. Pero eso no era la pregunta. La pregunta no es encontrar el valor de x. La pregunta es qué es la medida de ángulo D. Así que ahora tenemos que sustituir el valor de x aquí para encontrar la medida de ángulo D, que sería 4 por 5 más 9, que nos da 29 grados. Alright, next question. This picture is directly taken from your exam, alright? Most of the questions on this review, I try to disguise them, but some of them are not disguised because I don't see the point of disguising them. If I disguise them, then I would have to change it to a different question and I wouldn't be showing you what I need to show you for the exam, right? So this is the exact picture and pretty much the same question that's on the exam, and I added this video to show you what's happening in this picture. Esta foto es la misma foto que está en el examen, el mismo diagrama que está en el examen. Así que esta no está disfrazado, es básicamente lo que te van a preguntar en el examen. It says Billy is using a compass and a straight edge to perform the geometric construction below. what is the figure that Billy is constructing? Básicamente la pregunta es ¿qué es la figura que Billy está dibujando? Alright, let me play this video so you guys could see. I have trouble playing these videos. Give me 1 second while I struggle here. Alright, there we go. Alright, so look at the video and it'll show you that they're constructing a parallel line. A line parallel to the line on the bottom that goes through point R. Actually, let me pause it and show you to not waste too much time. That's our starting point. Whoops, let me pause it. Alright, that is our starting point. They're giving Billy that information. This line on the bottom and this point on the top. And what he's trying to do is to draw a line that's parallel to the line on the bottom that goes through point R, at least in the video. Because on the diagram it has different letters. But that's what he's trying to do. Okay, lo que está tratando de dibujar Billy es una línea paralela a esta línea que está aquí abajo, pero que también pasa por el punto R. Este video lo cogí por el internet, es diferente del diagrama, por eso es que las letras son diferentes, pero el concepto es igual. Alright, I got this video off the internet, so the letters are different, but the concept is the same. Okay, so what he's going to do is connect a line, connecting that point to this line. And now he sets the compass at whatever to create that arc, the same length of the arc on the top and on the bottom. And then he does the same thing here to, you don't need to know the details. You just need to know that he's creating a line that's parallel to the line on the bottom that goes through point R. All right, for the sake of time, because I don't want to spend too long on each question here, we don't need to go over all the little details. Just understand that, remember I said at the beginning of the year that to pay attention to these X's, or earlier in the year, to pay attention to the X's because they mark the spot for a dot. So if I put a dot there and connect this and pretend that it was straight, it's supposed to be a line parallel to line RS that's going through point Q. That's what they're doing here, okay? Recuerden al principio o en una sección cuando empezó el año, dije que siempre pongan atención a donde están estas X. Estas X son para marcar donde va un punto. Si yo pongo un punto aquí y lo conecto, voy a coger una línea paralela a la línea que está abajo y que también pasa por el punto Q. Alright, so if you look at the answer, that's what he's trying to draw. A line parallel to RS that goes through point Q. I'll say it again. This question, the only thing I disguised is I changed the name from, it was something else on the test and I put Billy. And I added this video to show it. But otherwise, this is basically the answer that's on the test. Because this one's not disguised. So don't mess it up because I'm showing you what the answer is. Okay, esto es básicamente la misma pregunta y respuesta que está en el examen. Lo único que le hice es cambiar el nombre de lo que estaba en el examen a Billy. Y puse este video para que vean lo que están haciendo. Okay, pero básicamente esa es la respuesta en el examen. Alright, and I also put the steps here. That's going to be on the PowerPoint, which is also showing you the same thing, that Billy's trying to construct a parallel line through a point. Okay, también puse los pasos que van a estar en el PowerPoint que voy a subir a Microsoft Teams, que te enseña la misma cosa, que él está tratando de construir una línea paralela que pasa por el punto que está aquí arriba. Alright, moving on. Which transformation carries the trapezoid onto itself? Alright, from these transformations, which one will put the trapezoid on top of the same trapezoid? De las 4 opciones, ¿cuál transformación pone el trapezoid encima del mismo trapezoid? Okay, let me show you the correct answer so I can talk about it and not waste too much time. The correct answer is D, which is a reflection across the line x equals 2. The line x equals 2 is this line right here. Okay, that's the line x equals 2. La línea x igual a 2 es esta línea aquí. If I reflect it over that, it'll look exactly the same, except that side AD will be on the right and side BC will be on the left. Okay, now, something that's important to know, because it's going to come up in another question in a second, right? So look, please, this is important. How do you know, like if I write x equals 2 or y equals 2, how do you know whether it's a horizontal line or a vertical line? I've said it earlier in the year. Let me repeat my little method to remembering which is which. This is the only little technique that I know to remember it, okay? Basically, whenever you have an equation that says x equals a number or y equals a number, it's either going to be a horizontal line or a vertical line, one or the other. It's always going to be the opposite of the axis that has that letter. So, for example, the axis that has the letter x is the x-axis, and that's a horizontal line. So that means any equation that says x equals a number is going to be a vertical line. So x equals 2 is this line right here. That's x equals 2. Also, wherever I put a dot on that line, the x-coordinate will always be 2. Only the y-coordinate will change. So wherever I put a dot, the x-coordinate is 2. The y-coordinate goes by changing depending on where you put it. All right? Make sure you understand that, because when it comes up again, like in 2 questions, I'm not going to have time to go over this. It'll take up too much time. Okay, now, same concept. The line y equals 2 is the opposite of the axis that has the letter y. So the axis that has the letter y is a vertical line. So the line y equals 2 is going to be a horizontal line right here at the number 2. All right, that's the line y equals 2. And another way you can think about it is wherever you put a dot on this line, the y-coordinate is always going to be 2, but the x-coordinate changes depending on where the dot is, okay? So that's the answer for this question, letter D. Let me just say that in Spanish real quick. Ok, así que la respuesta es una reflexión sobre la línea x igual a 2. Lo principal de entender para este problema es cómo uno sabe cómo luce la línea x igual a un número o y igual a un número. Esto sale en otra pregunta en un momento y creo que sale en más preguntas luego en el repaso. Así que es muy importante de entender. Lo voy a explicar ahora, pero no lo voy a explicar otra vez después de esta explicación. Ok, así que cuando tengan una ecuación que diga x igual a un número, vamos a decir x igual a 2 o y igual a un número. Por ahora vamos a decir y igual a 2. Ok, siempre cuando sea una ecuación así, va a ser o una línea horizontal o vertical. Ahora, ¿cómo se sabe cuál de las dos es? Ok, el único truco que yo tengo para recordarme cuál es cuál es siempre va a ser lo opuesto del axis que tenga esa letra. Así que, por ejemplo, x igual a 2 o x igual a cualquier número va a ser lo opuesto del axis que tiene la letra x. El axis que tiene la letra x es esta, que es una línea horizontal. Así que eso me dice que esto va a ser una línea vertical. ¿Ok? X igual a 2 es una línea vertical aquí. Y otra manera de recordarse cómo luce esa línea es donde quiera que yo ponga un punto en esa línea, el coordinado de x se mantiene 2, solamente cambia el coordinado de y. Si lo pongo aquí abajo, también sería 2 para x y para y un número diferente. Ahora, y igual a 2 o y igual a cualquier número es lo opuesto del axis que tiene la letra y. El axis que tiene la letra Y es una línea vertical, así que esto va a ser una línea horizontal aquí. Y donde quiera que yo ponga un punto en esta línea, el coordinado de Y se mantiene positivo 2. Solamente cambia el coordinado de X, donde quiera que ponga ese punto. Alright, moving on. Next question. Which of the following statements correctly explains whether or not the two figures are congruent? Whether or not the two figures are congruent. So if you look at the answers, some of them say that they are congruent and some of them say that they are not congruent. So first of all, let's check, are the two figures congruent? Okay, la pregunta dice, ¿cuál de las siguientes declaraciones correctamente explica si las dos figuras son congruentes o no? Y en la respuesta, algunas respuestas dicen que sí son congruentes y algunas dicen que no son congruentes. Así que primero que nada, vamos a determinar si son congruentes. All right, they all have 6 squares in the middle and 1 square here and 1 square here. This looks exactly the same except it's sideways. So yes, they are congruent. Sí son congruentes. So right off the bat, I can eliminate the answers that say not congruent. I'm going to eliminate those answers. Okay, voy a eliminar las respuestas que dicen que no pueden ser congruentes. So they are congruent. Now let's look at letter A. The two figures are congruent since there is a reflection that carries one figure onto the other. No, if you do a reflection, it's not going to match up. So it's not that one. Si hago una reflexión, esta figura no va a estar encima de esta figura, así que no puede ser eso. So it's got to be this one. The two figures are congruent since there is a rotation that carries one figure onto the other. Yes, that's correct. A 270-degree counterclockwise rotation or a 90-degree clockwise rotation would either one of those would work. Okay, si hay una rotación que se puede hacer. Se puede hacer una rotación de 270 grados en la dirección contra el reloj o una rotación de 90 grados en la dirección del reloj. By the way, one thing I want to state, this should be obvious, but just in case, don't memorize the letter of the answer because it's different on the test, okay? I didn't put it the same on the review, so don't make that mistake, please. Just in case anybody out there needs to hear that. Okay, por si acaso, no vayan a memorizar que la número 4 es la letra D, porque yo lo hice diferente que el repaso. Todo está en una orden diferente, así que no piensen así porque no va a ser así en el examen. Alright, number 5. Which of the following could be the equation of a line parallel to the line y equals 2? Alright, if you paid attention to my previous explanation about these lines that say y equals a number or x equals a number, you'll know that the line y equals 2 is the opposite of the axis that has y, the y-axis. So the y-axis is a vertical line, so the line y equals 2 is a horizontal line right here. This is the line y equals 2. So they want to know which line is parallel. Okay, listen, I could talk a lot about all these answers, but we don't have time for me to talk a lot about all these answers. So let me show you the correct answer. The answer is D, okay? And I'll give you 2 explanations about that. First of all, that line, y equals 0, remember, when it says y equals a number, it's the opposite of the y-axis. So it's going to be a horizontal line. Where? Right here, where y equals 0. So the line y equals 0 is just another name for the x-axis. That is the line y equals 0, and it's parallel to the line y equals 2. Look how easily you could remember or you could identify which is the answer. They both say y equals a number. So that's it. That's all you got to remember. They both say y equals a number. Those two lines are going to be parallel. Their slopes are the same, because when two lines are parallel, their slopes are the same. What is their slope? Let me show you what their slope is. I said I wasn't going to talk a lot, but let me mention this real quick because it's important. Look what their slope is. They both have a slope of 0. What you see here, the 2, is the y-intercept. All right? That's the y-intercept. And the slope is 0. That's why it's a completely flat horizontal line. But 0 times anything is 0, so that's why you don't write it. You just write y equals 2. Same thing down here. If I expand it, what it really says is y equals 0x plus 0 in slope-intercept form. The y-intercept is 0, and the slope is 0. Remember, the slope measures how steep a line is. So if the slope is 0, it's not steep at all. It's just a flat horizontal line. So they both have the same slope. That's why they're both parallel, because parallel lines always have the same slope. And what you're seeing there is just the y-intercept. All right? En español, si entendieron la explicación que hice hace poco, okay, ya saben que la línea y igual a 2 es una línea que es opuesto al axis que tiene la letra Y, que sería, ese axis es una línea vertical. Así que esta ecuación, el gráfico de esta ecuación sería una línea horizontal aquí, en el número 2. Okay, así que la pregunta es cuál de las ecuaciones es una línea paralelo a esta línea. Tiene que ser esta por varias razones. Primero que nada, y igual a 0 también es una línea horizontal aquí sobre el axis de X. Okay? Y la otra cosa es, si yo lo escribo completamente enseñando todos los detalles en la forma slope-intercept, van a ver que el slope de los dos es igual. El slope es número 0. ¿Ok? Y recuerden que el slope mide la inclinación de una línea. Si el slope de una línea es 0, quiere decir que no tiene ninguna inclinación. Es una línea completamente plano. Y 0 cuando se multiplica por cualquier número te da 0. Por eso es que no se escribe aquí, porque ya está simplificado. Solamente está enseñando el y-intercept, que es donde la línea cruza el axis de Y. Aquí abajo, el slope también es 0 y el Y-Intercept es 0. ¿Ok? Por eso que es esta línea. Okay, moving on. All right, there's a question on the test where they're going to give you a bunch of terms and definitions, and you got to correctly match them all. Okay? It's pretty easy. We've already gone over all these definitions. The only one that's new in terms of new in the sense that we haven't looked at it this year is a circle. So you should read all of these before the exam. Most of them are common sense, but remember, if you just get one of them wrong, the whole question is wrong. So it's worth looking at before the exam and making sure you understand it. Hay una pregunta en el examen donde te dan todos estos términos y lo tienen que conectar a la definición correcta. Okay, la mayoría son fácil. La única que no hemos visto este año es la definición de un círculo. Lo deben leer antes del examen, porque aunque esta pregunta es fácil, si solamente cogen una de las definiciones mal, ya la pregunta completa va a estar mal. Así que repasen eso antes del examen. Léenlo antes del examen. All right, look at this one. Daniel draws two triangles, all right, and he claims that the triangles are congruent. For the case where his claim is true, determine whether each statement below must be true. Must. Select yes or no for each statement. In other words, if these two triangles are congruent, like Daniel says, which of these statements must be true? They have to be true no matter what. Which ones are they? Okay? Daniel dibuja dos triángulos y él dice que los dos triángulos son congruentes. Si los dos triángulos son congruentes, ¿cuál de las siguientes declaraciones tienen que ser verdadero? Tienen. Okay, so let's look at the first one. The corresponding angles of the two triangles must be congruent. Los ángulos correspondientes de los dos triángulos tienen que ser congruentes. That's true. If the two triangles are congruent, their corresponding angles have to be congruent as well. Number two, there must be a sequence of translations that carries one triangle onto the other. Does that have to be true? No, because I could have two triangles that are congruent to each other, but you would do a rotation to put one on top of the other, or a reflection. So it does not have to be a translation, okay? So that one's no. La número 2 dice que tiene que haber una secuencia de traslaciones para poner un triángulo encima del otro. Eso no es necesario que sea verdadero porque es posible que sea o una rotación o una reflexión. All right, number 3, there must be a sequence of rigid motions that carries one triangle onto the other. In case you forgot, let me remind you what rigid motions mean. Okay, a rigid motion is either a translation, a rotation, or a reflection. A rigid motion, the word kind of tells you. Motion means you're moving it, and rigid means it's staying like the same size, I guess. All right? So a rigid motion is a motion that where you move it in some way, but it's staying the same size. So therefore, yes, there does have to exist a sequence of rigid motions that carries one triangle onto the other, okay? Sí tiene que existir una secuencia de movimientos rígidos que ponen un triángulo encima del otro. Los movimientos rígidos serían o una traslación, o una rotación, o una reflexión. ¿Ok? Son movimientos que no le cambian el tamaño de la figura. And the last one, the corresponding sides of the two triangles must be congruent. Yes, if the two triangles are congruent, their corresponding sides have to be congruent as well. Si los dos triángulos son congruentes, los lados correspondientes también tienen que ser congruentes. On the test, all of this is in a different order, so don't be memorizing yes, no, yes, yes, because that would not be smart at all. All right? Make sure you understand the concept. En el examen no está en el mismo orden esta respuesta, así que no memoricen sí, no, sí, sí, porque lo van a coger mal. All right. On the coordinate plane below, quadrilateral 1 has been transformed to quadrilateral 2. Which of these could be the transformation? Choose all that are correct. There's several correct answers, okay? Tenemos que coger todas las transformaciones que pone la figura 1 sobre figura 2 y hay más que una respuesta correcta. Alright, so letter A says a rotation of 180 degrees about the point -1, +4. So if you would do a rotation of 180 degrees around that point, it's going to be somewhere in this sector. So that's not going to work. It's not going to be on top of quadrilateral 2. So that's wrong, okay? Si para la letra A dice una rotación de 180 grados alrededor de este punto, eso pondría esta figura en el sector 4 y eso no trabaja. Así que esa está mal. All right, that one's wrong. Letter B, a reflection across the line y equals -1. The line y equals -1 is down here like this. So if you do a reflection across that line, it's going to be down here somewhere. So that doesn't work either. La letra B, una reflexión sobre la línea Y igual a -1, que sería esta línea aquí abajo. Pondría esta figura aquí, así que eso no trabaja tampoco. All right, letter C, a reflection across the line x equals -1. This is the line x equals -1. If I reflect it across that line, look at this point. It's 1, 2, 3 units to the left, and this point right here is 1, 2, 3 units to the right. So all the points in this figure are the same distance from this line as all the points in this figure. So yeah, that one's correct. Okay, una reflexión sobre la línea x igual a -1 sí trabaja. All right, letter D. Let me circle this. All right, letter D. A translation 4 units to the right, and then a reflection across the y-axis. All right, if I translate this 4 units to the right, it's gonna put it somewhere like here, more or less. Something like that. And then if I reflect it across the y-axis, it's going to look like that. I'm not drawing it perfectly, but more or less. And that doesn't work, okay? Si hago una traslación 4 unidades a la derecha y después una reflexión sobre el axis de Y, estaría aquí, así que eso no trabaja. So D is wrong. All right, now let's look at E. A translation 2 units to the left, and then a reflection across the line x equals -2. All right, so let's take a point. Like, let's look at this point right here. If I move it 2 units to the left, it'll be right here. It'll be something like that. Dos unidades a la izquierda. Then I reflect it across the line, x equals -2, which is this line right here. Okay, so look at this point. This point right here is 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the left. And this point right here is 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the right of this line. So yes, a reflection over this line, x equals -2, would put this figure on top of this figure. So that one works. Okay? Después que lo muevo 2 unidades a la izquierda, una reflexión sobre la línea x igual a -2 sí trabaja. Alright, so these are correct so far. And the last one, a reflection across the y-axis. Let me do that first. Una reflexión sobre el axis de Y. So again, this is 4 units to the left, so let's put it 4 units to the right, which would make it right here. And then a translation 2 units to the left. Yeah, 1, 2, that would put it right there, so that works, okay? Después de la reflexión sobre el axis de Y, dice que una traslación 2 unidades a la izquierda, que sí lo pone encima de esta figura, así que esa también trabaja. So these are correct. Once again, a reminder, on the test, this is not the order of the answers. So if you put this, you're going to get the whole thing wrong, all right? You got to understand the concepts. I disguised a lot of this stuff, all right? En el examen, yo disfracé mucho de las preguntas. Así que no piensen que estas son las mismas respuestas en el examen. Tienen que entender el concepto. All right, so there's the answer. Let me move on. All right, Tori. Tori from Cobra Kai. Tori draws a square and plots the center of the square. All right. She claims, okay, listen, this question is easy, but it's written very tricky, very easy to mess this up, even though the concept of the question is simple. Even I get confused by the way the answers are written, okay? So it says, Tori draws a square and plots the center of the square. She claims that any rotation about the center of the square that is a multiple of 45 degrees will carry the square onto itself. Which statement best describes Tori's claim? So before we move on, let me show you something. in case you forgot, we did a chapter on this where we had different figures, different shapes, and you would go like this. Depending on how many sides it had, you would do 360 divided by the number of sides. All right, like in this case, it gives you 90. And that would tell us that every time we rotate this figure 90 degrees, it's going to match up with the way it looks now. So if I rotate this square 90 degrees or 180 degrees, which is 90 times 2, or 90 times 3, which would be 270 degrees, or 90 times 4, which would be 360 degrees, it would match up, okay? So with that being said, if you look back at what Tori is saying, she's saying that any rotation, excuse me, any rotation about the center of the square that is a multiple of 45, she's wrong, because if it's if she's saying any rotation that is a multiple of 45, that means that she's saying that if I rotate it 45 degrees, it'll work. If I rotate it 45 degrees times 3, which is 135, it will also work. And that's not true. That's false. If you rotate this 45 degrees, it's going to look like this. It's going to be at the halfway point between 0 degrees and 90-degree rotation. All right, so she's wrong. So that's important to note, because that means I could right off the bat eliminate the answers that say that Tori is correct. She's not correct. She's wrong. So right off the bat, I could eliminate these answers that say that she's correct. All right, before I continue, let me say all that in Spanish. Ok, así que dice que Tori dibuja un cuadrado con el centro, y ella dice que una rotación alrededor del centro, que es un múltiple de 45 grados, siempre va a poner el cuadrado encima del cuadrado mismo. Ok, así que tuvimos un capítulo donde teníamos diferentes figuras con diferentes números de lado, donde estábamos haciendo que si se divide 360 por los números de lados, en este caso 4, eso nos dice el mínimo rotación necesario para poner la figura encima de la misma figura. Así que para un cuadrado, cada rotación, que es un múltiple de 90 grados, pone el cuadrado encima del mismo cuadrado. Así que si lo roto 90 grados, o 180, o 270, o 360, etc., pone el cuadrado encima del mismo cuadrado. Ok, así que Tori está diciendo que cada múltiple de 45 grados. Así que ella está mal, porque si hago una rotación de 45 grados, el cuadrado va a lucir más o menos así. ¿Ok? Si lo roto 135 grados, que sería 45 por 3, también no trabaja. Así que ella está mal. Así que si a la vez que me doy cuenta de eso, ya puedo eliminar la respuesta que dice que Tori está correcta. Ella no está correcta, está mal. ¿Ok? Así que está entre la A y la B, pero la forma que escribieron la respuesta es muy fácil de hacer un error, porque te están tratando de engañar. ¿Ok? Se tiene que leer con mucho cuidado. All right. I'm going to put the correct answer and talk about it. I'm telling you right now, I was filming this video earlier. This is like take 2 or actually it's like take 5 or something. But even the first time I was filming it, once again, I've seen this question every year and I still get confused because of the way the answer is worded. It's really easy to get confused, and especially when you start like overthinking it. Okay, so look, the correct answer is A. Let's look at it and let's look at the wrong answer as well. All right, so A says Tori's claim is incorrect since not all rotations that are multiples of 45 degrees carry a square onto itself, which is exactly what I was saying. Not all the multiples of 45 degrees carry a square onto itself. However, look at letter B and keep in mind on the test that it's not going to be in this order. It's all going to be scrambled. And I'm telling you, I'm warning you, it's super simple to get confused by the way it's worded, especially letter B. Letter B says, Tori's claim is incorrect since not all rotations that carry a square onto itself are multiples of 45 degrees. Okay, so the reason letter B is incorrect is because all rotations that carry a square onto itself are multiples of 45 degrees. What I mean by that is this. We already said that these rotations work. And all of these numbers are multiples of 45 degrees. All right? all the rotations that carry a square onto itself are multiples of 45 degrees. But all the but here's the opposite. But all the multiples of 45 degrees are not. Let me say that again. All the multiples of 45 degrees do not carry a square onto itself. If that sounds confusing, guess what? I agree with you 100%. I don't write these questions. I'm just preparing you because that's on the test, all right? And I'm telling you, I've seen this question for several years in a row, and I still have to read it slowly because these two answers are so similar. It's very easy to start getting confused. And plus, it's not just that part that's confusing. It's also when you add the, is she incorrect? Is it saying that, like, is she incorrect? Is she correct? Is it saying, like, I'm telling you, it's really easy to confuse yourself, okay? Así que la letra A es correcta porque dice que Tori no está correcta porque no todas las rotaciones que son múltiples de 45 grados pone el cuadrado encima del mismo cuadrado. Pero la letra B, que en el examen es otra letra, luce bien similar a esta respuesta. Pero dice que Tori está incorrecta porque no todas las rotaciones que pone un cuadrado encima del mismo cuadrado son múltiples de 45 grados. Y eso está incorrecto porque sí, todos estos números, todas estas rotaciones que pone el cuadrado encima del mismo cuadrado, todos ellos sí son múltiples de 45 grados. ¿Ok? Deben leer esto con cuidado y estudiarlo antes del examen porque es muy fácil de coger mal. All right, moving on. Okay, for this question, all I'm writing is this, a couple things. Number one, make sure you are familiar with all these theorems that we went over. Side, angle, side, 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 hypotenuse, leg, angle, side, angle, 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 side. Make sure you remember what they are, okay? And on the next page, I have examples of all of them. It says on the top, make sure you understand these triangle congruency examples. So like, for example, this right here is an example of side, side, side. This is the answer. This right here is an example of angle, angle, side. I would look through them and make sure you understand why each of these is what it says here to the left. For the ones over here, like the answer is over here. All right, I'm going to tell you right now, for this question, it's one of these 10 diagrams that you see here. One of these 10 diagrams that you see here is on the test. And you got to pick which one of these answers is the one that goes with that diagram. So I would make sure you understand all of them because it is on the test. Let me repeat that in Spanish. Para esta pregunta, tienen que recordarse de estas teoremas que son fáciles, que ya lo estudiamos. Del lado, ángulo, lado, 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 hipotenusa y pierna, ángulo, lado, ángulo y ángulo, ángulo, lado. Entiéndenlo todo, ¿ok? Y aquí están ejemplos, ¿ok? Aquí está el diagrama y la respuesta o el teorema que se le aplica a este diagrama está a la izquierda. Así que este es lado, lado, lado. Este es un ejemplo de ángulo, ángulo, lado. Una de estas 10 que están aquí está en el examen. No le voy a decir cuál, pero una de estas 10 ejemplos está en el examen y van a tener que identificar cuál de los teoremas es para ese diagrama. Okay, moving on. All right, this one's a little bit of a headache, okay? It says triangle ABC has vertices at these 3 points. Which sequence of 2 transformations could she perform? Who's she? I don't know. I messed up here. Which sequence of 2 transformations could you perform so that the transformed vertices become these new coordinates? And I forgot to put a little apostrophe here. My bad. Let me just delete the whole video and start all over again. I'm just kidding. All right, so these are the coordinates of the pre-image, and these are the coordinates of the image. So the question is, which one of these transformations will change the top coordinates to these new coordinates, okay? La pregunta es, ¿cuál de estas 4 transformaciones van a cambiar los coordinados de la imagen original que está aquí arriba a la imagen nuevo que está aquí abajo? All right, so let's look at each one of these at a time. All right, letter A, a translation 4 units down. Before I look at the rest of the part, let's just do the first part. All right, remember that when you move a figure up or down, it affects the y coordinate. So if I move a figure 4 units down, that means I subtract four numbers from the y-coordinate. So let's just look at point A. If I move this point 4 units down, I got to subtract 4 from the y-coordinate, which is 1. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. When I look right here, fail. When I look right here, the y-coordinate is not negative 3 for point A prime. Alright, so therefore this is not the answer. Ok, la primera opción dice de una traslación 4 unidades para abajo. Ok, el movimiento para arriba y para abajo es controlado por el coordinado de Y. Así que para moverlo 4 unidades para abajo, se le resta 4 al coordinado de Y. 1 menos 4 es negativo 3, pero aquí no dice negativo 3, así que no es esta transformación. Alright, letter B. Reflect across the line y equals negative 2, followed by reflection across the y-axis. Alright, this one's a little bit of a headache that requires you to be able to visualize this. Alright, the line y equals negative 2 is right here. Okay, aquí está la línea y igual a negativo 2. Si hago una reflexión sobre esta línea, okay, that's gonna change the, again, let's just look at point A, okay, let's just look at point A for now. Vamos solamente mirar punto A. Alright, point A is located at 2, 1. Alright, point A at 2, 1. So if I reflect it across the line y equals negative 2, right, that's going to affect the y-coordinate. That y-coordinate, positive 1, is 3 units above negative 2. Here's negative 2. Here's negative 1. Here's 0. Here's positive 1. It's 3 units. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3 units above the line y equals negative 2. So if I reflect it over that, it's going to be 3 units below at, let me write 2, negative 5. Alright, because if I put it 3 units below negative 2, you do negative 2 minus 3, which would put it at negative 5. Now there's one more thing to do. I said this was a headache, but what are we going to do? It's on the test. Now do a reflection across the y-axis. Okay, if you remember the rule, to reflect across the y-axis, I change the x to its opposite sign. Okay, which would make it negative 2, negative 5. So, unfortunately, yeah, that one's right. I say unfortunately because I know this is not the right answer. But if that one's right, that means I got to keep checking the other ones. That's why I said unfortunately, all right? So, now let's look at letter B. All right, so again, let's look at the y-coordinate. The y-coordinate is at 3. 3 is 5 units above negative 2. If I reflect it to the other side of negative 2, I got to put it 5 units below, which would put it at negative 7, which is what's here. And then if I reflect it across the y-axis, I got to change the x-coordinate to its opposite sign, which would make it negative 3, which is not what's here. So it's not letter B. All right, this is wrong. I don't know why I circled that, but that was a mistake. Letter B is wrong, okay? La letra B está incorrecta. Okay, because si reflejo el punto B sobre esta línea, estaría en el coordinado de Y sería negativo. Wait, 3. Give me 1 second. 3. I forgot what I said. El coordinado de Y está correcto, pero el coordinado de X está mal, porque si lo reflejo sobre el axis de Y, tendría que ser negativo 3. Alright. For the sake of time, I'm going to show you the answer. Alright. Letter D is the only one that's correct. Hey, listen, as you can see, like this question, you gotta do some work. Alright. So keep that in mind, and there's gonna be other hard ones. So some not all questions are gonna be a walk in the park. Alright, let's look at why letter D is right. Okay, it says a reflection across the line y equals negative 2. Alright, so again, the line y equals negative 2 is right here. So if I reflect, let's look at the y-coordinate. If I reflect this over, trying to think if there's an easier way to explain this one, but I don't think there is. If I reflect this point over the line y equals negative 2, okay? Let me draw this. How's that? Let me draw it. Maybe that'll help. 1, 2, 3, 4. I wonder how many of you guys are still paying attention to me. All right. All right. So point A is at positive 2, positive 1. All right. Point B is at positive 3, comma 3. You know what? It's too difficult to draw. Let me do it this way. I'm sorry. All right, here we go. Let me do it this way instead. I think I should have done it this way from the beginning. All right, so this is the correct answer. So let me do the easy part first, okay? Because when you reflect it over the line y equals negative 2, it's going to affect the y coordinates. And when you do a translation 4 units to the left, it's going to affect the x coordinates. So let me do the translation 4 units to the left first, because that's easier to figure out. All right, so if I move the figure 4 units to the left, to the x coordinate, I'm going to do 2 minus 4, which gives me negative 2. To the to letter B, I'm going to do 3 minus 4, which gives me negative 1. And to letter C, I'm going to do 4 minus 4, which gives me 0. And you know what? I think I just remembered what's the easiest way to do this question. I got it. All right, guys. You're going to thank me, hopefully. Okay, this is the easiest way. If you weren't paying attention, listen to me now, and I'm going to tell you the easiest way with the least amount of work involved to do this question, all right? The easiest way to do this question is, and this is something that you may want to write down to yourself so that you'll remember, okay? In all these answers, the easy part is the second part. The easiest part is the second part, because that second part only affects the x coordinate, and the first part affects the y coordinate, and it involves way more work. All right, but if you just look at the second part, which affects the x coordinate, you could just quickly look at which one is going to be correct. Let me show you what I mean. All right, two of the answers here say translate 6 units to the left. That means you would subtract 6 from all the x coordinates, and you could quickly do like 2 minus 6 is negative 4. Boom, right there, that's not negative 4. So that eliminates this answer and this answer. I'll say it again. For letter A and letter C, it says to translate it 6 units to the left. That means you subtract 6 units from the x coordinate. So if I look at my point A, 2 minus 6 is negative 4, and that's not what's here. So automatically I eliminated those two answers. Okay, now look at letter B. Letter B says a reflection across the y-axis. Okay, I don't know if you remember me saying this a lot earlier in the year, but whenever you reflect across the y-axis, you got to change the x coordinate to its opposite sign. All right, that's something you could do really fast. So if you look at these coordinates, 2, change it to the opposite sign, negative 2. Okay, that one works. 3, change it to the opposite side, negative 3. Boom, that's not there. So that eliminates this answer. And that shows us the only answer that's correct, which letter D says a translation 4 units to the left. If you subtract every one of these x coordinates by 4, you'll see that you get these x coordinates, and it makes it not necessary to do this other stuff that's in the front, which is much more work, all right? So again, if you use that little trick, look how much, I know I took a while on this problem because I forgot that detail. I haven't done this question since last year, and I just remembered. I knew it couldn't be that hard. I didn't remember doing so much work on any other questions on the mid-year assessment. But okay, so there's your little trick. The people paying attention will be able to get this right really fast. And the people not paying attention will be like, it's too much work. I'm just going to guess. Okay? Now let me repeat all that in Spanish. All right. En español, me recordé, después de todo ese trabajo que pasé, la manera más fácil de hacer este problema. Ok, en las 4 opciones, la primera parte de todas estas opciones afecta el coordinado de Y es mucho trabajo. Pero la manera más rápida de hacerlo es si no, solamente miramos la segunda parte, que en esta pregunta solamente afecta el coordinado de X, que es mucho más fácil hacer con lo que nos están diciendo de hacer en estos problemas. Primero que nada, miren aquí. Aquí te dice una traslación 6 unidades a la izquierda en estas dos opciones. ¿Okay? Eso es fácil de hacer Porque para hacer eso simplemente se resta los coordinados de x por 6. ¿Ok? Así que enseguida que miro aquí, el punto A sería 2 menos 6, que te da negativo 4. Pero aquí el punto A' no dice negativo 4. Así que ya con eso eliminé estas dos respuestas porque no están bien. En la letra B dice una reflexión sobre el axis de Y. No sé si se recuerdan la regla porque yo antes lo decía mucho, pero para una reflexión sobre el axis de Y simplemente se cambia el coordinado de X al signo opuesto. Eso es algo que se puede hacer bien rápido. El 2 sería negativo 2, ok, aquí está bien. El 3 sería negativo 3, miren, aquí no está negativo 3, así que ya esa respuesta también está mal. La única que está correcta es el último en este ejemplo, donde hice una traslación 4 unidades a la izquierda. Si yo resto todos los coordinados de X por 4, me dan los coordinados nuevos que están aquí abajo. Así que eso es la manera más rápida de hacer este problema. Con ese truco ya le enseñé cómo se puede hacer mucho más fácil que como yo lo estaba tratando de hacer al principio, que estaba tratando de hacer todos los detalles, y eso sí que es mucho trabajo, hasta para mí. Alright, moving on. I wasted a lot of time on that question. Alright, so point M lies at 5, negative 2. Point M is reflected over the x-axis and then translated 6 units to the left to produce M prime. Which rule could have been used to produce M prime from M? Alright, so you got to know your rules. Now listen, on the test, you're at home, you have access to my PowerPoint, so you can look at the rules. No one's stopping you from looking at the rules. And also the rules are easy to memorize if you want to be cool. Alright? Alright, so look, point M is reflected over the x-axis. So the way I told you to remember whenever you reflect over the x or the y-axis is whatever letter of the axis you're reflecting over, change the other letter to its opposite sign. So if I'm reflecting over the x-axis, I got to change the y to its opposite sign. So look at your answer choices. By the way, here they're putting you the rules. X, Y, what are you going to change it to? All right? What is the rule for what you're changing it to? So you know what? At least with the answer choices I put here, I'm not positive it's this easy on the test. But just looking at that rule, the only possible answer that's correct is this one right here. Because it's the only one that has y changed to the opposite sign and nothing else there. Let's keep looking at it because there's another part to it. Okay, it says, and then translated 6 units to the left. So remember that to move it right or left, you got to do that to the x coordinate. So 6 units to the left means you subtract 6 from the x coordinate. So that's why this is the correct answer. 6 units to the left would be x minus 6, and a reflection over the x-axis means you change y to the opposite sign. Alright, so as long as you have a decent understanding of the rules, this question is pretty easy. Okay, así que aquí nos dan punto M. ¿Quieren saber cuál regla te está diciendo de hacer una reflexión sobre el axis de X y después una traslación 6 unidades a la izquierda? Ok, una para reflejar sobre el axis de X se cambia Y al signo opuesto. Y una traslación 6 unidades a la izquierda se le resta 6 al coordinado de X. Recuerden que las reglas para estas transformaciones están en el PowerPoint que yo voy a subir a Microsoft Teams. Así que durante el examen lo pueden mirar. Es mejor mirarlo y cogerlo bien que no mirarlo y adivinar y cogerlo mal. Alright, so moving on. Johnny from Cobra Kai, Johnny claims that the two squares are congruent. I mean, obviously, if you look at them, they're obviously congruent. Which statement could be used to prove Johnny's claim? Alright, listen, this question is a no-brainer. It's super simple. It's on the test, except it's not Johnny. Alright? So the correct answer is A. The two squares are congruent since a translation carries one square onto the other. Let's not overthink it. Yes, it is that easy on the test, alright? Esta es fácil. Dice que Johnny dice que los dos cuadrados son congruentes. Sí, obviamente son congruentes. ¿Cuál declaración se puede usar para comprobar lo que dice Johnny? La letra A. Los dos cuadrados son congruentes porque existe una traslación que pone un cuadrado encima del otro. Alright, question 14. Alright, listen, this is on the test. It's really not that hard, but it looks hard, and in my opinion, it's very confusing, alright? It's very confusing. So it says, okay, listen, this exact picture is from the test, right? This is one that I'm not really disguising. I'm kind of giving you the answer. All right? I see that name, Miguel. We've seen Tori, we've seen Johnny, we've seen Miguel. Could that be a coincidence? All right, so two parallel lines are cut by a transversal X. Here's the transversal X. And a transversal Y, so that X and Y intersect at point Q as shown. Miguel constructs the following argument. Angle A is, this is the same way it's written on the test, okay? Basically, they want you to come up with the answer that goes here, where it says missing reason 1. And therefore congruent to one angle. And then, I'll come back to this, okay? I just skimmed it, what it said. All right, and angle B and C are, and then it says here missing reason 2. So look, let me explain something. They're going to give you multiple choice, and you got to put what is the missing reason 1 and what is the missing reason 2, okay, for Miguel's argument. I'm going to show you the answer because then it'll be easier to explain what this all means. And I think you'll get it a lot easier. All right, before I show the answer, let me just say that in Spanish, okay? Así que dice que hay dos líneas paralelas que son cortado por transversal X y transversal Y, y que X y Y intersectan en el punto Q. Este diagrama es el mismo que está en el examen, ¿ok? Y básicamente, en el examen es básicamente esta pregunta, le estoy dando la respuesta casi, y tienen que, donde dice la razón que falta 1 y la razón que falta 2, tienen que poner qué razón va ahí para apoyar, para soportar lo que está diciendo Miguel, ¿ok? Déjame enseñar la respuesta para poder explicar la pregunta, que va a ser más fácil de esa forma. All right, so look. Missing reason 1 is an alternate exterior angle with one angle in the triangle. Okay, let's look at this because I kind of skimmed it. Let's go back and look at this, all right? It says Miguel constructs the following argument. Angle A, here's angle A. Angle A is an alternate exterior angle with one angle in the triangle. Yeah, angle A is an alternate exterior angle with this angle right here. Is that the best way to draw it? Let me put, it's kind of too small. Angle A is an alternate exterior angle with that angle right here. If you forgot what that means, look, when you got two parallel lines and you got a transversal, this is an alternate exterior angle with this angle. That's what I'm doing right here. Angle A, this is angle A. It's an alternate exterior angle with this angle right here. That's inside the triangle that we're looking at, okay? And by the way, alternate exterior angles are equal. Another way you can think about it is that angle A forms a vertical angle with this angle right here, and this angle right here is a corresponding angle with this one, so they're both equal, and this one is equal to this one. So all three of them are equal, but the most direct explanation is that angle A is an alternate exterior angle with this angle right here. Again, listen, I'm telling you, it's the same answer on the test. All right, so if you mess that up, I don't know what else to do for you, okay? If you mess that up, what does that say about you? If I'm giving you the answer, all right? I know what it says. It says that you're not Cobra Kai material. That's what I would say. All right, so let me just say that in Spanish real quick before I go to the next reason, okay? Así que está diciendo que ángulo A es... Esto es un poco difícil para mí traducir en español, pero es un ángulo exterior en el lado alterno de este transversal, ¿ok? Ya esto lo estudiamos anterior en el año, ¿ok? Donde este ángulo es un ángulo exterior alterno con este ángulo y los dos miden igual cuando tiene esa situación, ¿ok? Los dos son congruentes. Así que este ángulo A mide igual que este ángulo que está aquí dentro del triángulo. Okay, now look at angles B and C are. The missing reason 2 is angle B and C are vertical angles with the other two angles in the triangle. So angle B is a vertical angle with this angle right here. And angle C is a vertical angle with this angle right here, okay? Ángulos B y C son ángulos verticales con estos dos ángulos que están dentro del triángulo. Okay. The sum of the three angles inside of a triangle is 180. Therefore, the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B plus the measure of angle C has to equal 180. Okay, so basically, the reason that we know that these three angles, that the sum of these three angles is 180, is because we know that when you add up the three angles of a triangle, it equals 180. And since angle A is equal to this angle, and angle B and C are equal to the two other angles, that means when you add up angle A plus B plus C, the total has to equal 180. I hope that made sense, all right? Again, that is on the test. Ok, así que ya se sabe que la suma de todos los ángulos interiores de un triángulo siempre te da 180 grados. Como sabemos que el ángulo A es congruente a este ángulo aquí dentro del triángulo, y ángulo B y ángulo C son congruentes a los dos otros ángulos dentro del triángulo. Eso quiere decir que la suma de los tres te tiene que dar 180, que es lo que dice aquí. Esta pregunta y esta respuesta están en el examen. ¿Ok? Si lo cogen mal y yo le estoy dando la respuesta, no sé qué más quieren que le haga para ayudarlo. All right. Okay, look, this one is easy, but on a test, like, it's written very confusing. So, but if you look at what I wrote here, like I set it up for you guys to easily get this question correctly if you listen to me. It's up to you. All right? Okay, so a couple things. Number one, I wrote out the steps here. This is a construction for how to construct a regular hexagon inscribed in a circle. Okay, so let me talk about what this means first of all. A hexagon. Hexagon has 6 sides. All right, that's number one. Inscribed. That just means that the 6-sided hexagon is going to be inside of a circle. However you draw a hexagon. I could draw good, but I don't want to do it right now. But it's going to be inside of this circle, okay? And there was a chapter that went over this, but for the sake of time, I skipped it because the questions in that chapter barely come up at all. So, and we were running out of time and we needed time to do other stuff. So I skipped that chapter because honestly, it's not important. Okay, but there is one question on the test on this, so that's why it's in the review. Okay, let me just say that in Spanish before I play. I'm going to play a video that's here. All right. Esta pregunta es, le van a preguntar de los pasos para dibujar un hexagon regular. Un hexagon es una figura con 6 lados dentro de un círculo. Okay, esta palabra básicamente quiere decir dentro de un círculo. Déjame poner el video y después le explico lo que tienen que saber. Alright, so here's the video, and I'm going to warn you, I made this video myself using some online tool, and it's pretty tricky to use this compass online, so it goes a little haywire, as you'll see in a second. I'll rewind it in a second and explain what you got to know. Here's the compass going haywire and me trying to control it. This is thrilling, isn't it? Come on, buddy. One more. You could do it. There you go. And now just connect all the dots like this. Look at that. A work of art. All right, guys. Okay, so let me explain a little bit about this. Number one, the reason I had to make this video, there's videos online that I could have gotten that show how to create a regular hexagon inscribed in a circle. The problem is none of them show it in the order that they're doing it on the test. On the test, they decided to complicate my life And since I'm the type of teacher that goes the extra mile, I made a special video for you guys so you can see exactly how to do it, all right? And I'm going to point out what it is that's weird about the way they're doing it on the test and what makes the question confusing, all right? So what makes the question weird is this. Like, the way you normally see it in all the other videos is that they draw a circle. All right, can I rewind this? All right, here we go. This is the part where I struggle to figure out how to, all right, there you go. All right, so let me pause it. All right, so the way you normally do it is you create a circle like that. That's a circle. Okay, then you put a point somewhere else on top of the circle, which is right there. There's the point right there. Okay, and then you would just go like in one direction, putting lines here. Like you would put one without changing the width of the compass. You would put a line here, then you move the compass on top of that point and put a line here, like that, okay? But the way they're doing it on the test that complicated my life is instead of just putting one line here and then one line here and then one line here, the step that they did after this is they did a line. Okay, hold on. That's the compass going haywire. All right, hold on. Okay, right there. They did a line there. Come on. All right, there's the line. And then without changing the compass width and without moving it, do the same thing on the other side right there. Okay, now let me pause. Look at the steps, all right? I'm kind of like emphasizing the what you need to know for the test, okay? Step 1 is draw a circle using a compass. All right, that's easy. That's not the question. Step 2 is mark a point on the circle. This will be the first vertex of the hexagon. That's what I got right there. Step 3, this is the important part. So if you're paying attention, this is the part you got to know. All right? Without changing the width of the compass, put the compass on the marked point, then draw an arc that intersects the circle. Let me underline. Then draw an arc that intersects the circle in 2 places. Why am I underlining that? Why do you think Mr. Yu is underlining that? Why do you think your sensei is underlining that? Okay, so I don't like this question. I don't like the way they're drawing this, but it's on the test, all right? So that's what you need to know, all right? That part that I'm emphasizing is the part that you better make sure you remember on the test, okay? All right, so let me just say that real quick in Spanish. En español, lo primero para dibujar esto, lo primero que hicieron es dibujar el círculo. Ok, espera. Dibujar el círculo. Después ponen un punto encima, en donde quiera, pero encima del círculo, que es ese punto ahí. Y sin cambiar la distancia entre el compass, ¿ok? Tienen que... Esto no es la manera de que se hace normalmente, pero es la manera que lo están explicando en el examen, y por la razón que lo están explicando de una manera tan extraña, yo tuve que hacer este video para explicarlo de la manera que está en el examen, ¿ok? Sin cambiar el ancho o la distancia entre el lápiz y el compass, ¿ok? Tienen que dibujar una línea ahí en el círculo y en el otro lado, ¿ok? Y eso es lo que estoy enseñando aquí. Lo que tienen que saber para el examen. Sin cambiar el ancho del compass, pongan el punto sobre el punto marcado, que es este punto aquí, y dibujen un arco que intersecta el círculo en 2 lugares. Eso es lo que tienen que saber para el examen. Okay, moving on. Alright, line FG goes through these points. Which equation represents a line that is perpendicular? Alright, this we haven't done it in a while, and there was only 1 chapter on this, so there's a good chance you forgot. Alright, let me refresh your memory. So first of all, let me find the slope for line FG. That's the first thing I'm going to do. The slope of line FG, alright? So to find the slope, I'm going to use this formula. Alright, and I'm going to label one of these points x1, y1, and the other one x2, y2. Lo primero que voy a hacer es encontrar el slope de esta línea que pasa por estos dos puntos para después encontrar cuál ecuación es una línea perpendicular a la línea FG que pasa por este punto. Alright, so when I substitute those coordinates, I'm going to have on the top 2 minus 10 and on the bottom 1 minus 3. Alright, so that's going to give me negative 8 on the top and negative 2 on the bottom. When you divide that, you're going to get positive 4. Okay, so the slope of line FG is positive 4. Why did I do that? Because you may have forgotten this, but you remember how parallel lines have the same slope? Well, perpendicular lines have slopes that are the opposite sign and the reciprocal of each other. So I don't know if you remember that because we had a chapter on that. So they're the opposite sign. So since this line has a slope that is positive, that means the line perpendicular to it has a slope that is negative. And since this line has a slope that is positive 4, the line perpendicular to it would have a slope that's the reciprocal, which is 1 over 4. Because remember, this is 4 over 1. Alright, so the slope of the line perpendicular is going to be negative 1 over 4. Let me write that over here. Okay? Let me say that in Spanish before I continue. Okay, el slope de la línea FG es el número 4. Okay, y las líneas que son paralelos tienen el mismo slope, pero las líneas que son perpendicular, la relación entre los slopes es que tienen el signo opuesto y son el recíproco de cada uno. Así que si como este tiene el slope 4, una línea perpendicular sería negativo en lugar de positivo. Y en lugar de 4 va a ser el recíproco de 4, que sería 1 sobre 4. Alright, so the slope is going to be negative 1 over 4. Let me erase all this, alright? So the slope of our line has to be negative 1 over 4. El slope tiene que ser negativo 1 sobre 4. Okay, now here's the next part. Let me use slope-intercept form. That's slope-intercept form, okay? So I'm going to substitute the slope for m, and I'm going to have negative 1 over 4 right there. Okay, now I need to find out what is the y-intercept. Tengo que encontrar qué es el y-intercept. And the way I'm going to find it is by substituting this point for x and y. La manera que voy a encontrar qué es el y-intercept es substituyendo este punto para x y y. So for y, I'm going to put 0. And for x, I'm going to put positive 4. When I multiply them together, 4 times negative 1 over 4 is going to give me negative 4 over 4, which equals negative 1. Now I move negative 1 to the left by adding it to both sides. So b equals positive 1. b equals positive 1. That's my y-intercept. So my equation in slope-intercept form is this. Obviously, I'm not done because I don't see any answer that looks like that. But that is my equation in slope-intercept form. Mi ecuación en slope-intercept form es la siguiente. Esta es la ecuación para una línea perpendicular a la línea FG que pasa por este punto. Pero está en slope-intercept form y no luce igual que ninguna de las respuestas. Así que me falta otro paso. Alright, so this is the equation of a line in slope-intercept form that's perpendicular to line FG and that passes through this point. Okay, now let me show you what's the next step. I'm going to erase all this though. Y equals negative 1 over 4x plus 1. Y equals negative 1 over 4x plus 1. Alright, so a couple things. First of all, let me put it in this form. If you look at all the answers there, the x and the y are on the same side. And the constant, that means the number that's by itself, is on the other side. This is called standard form. So first let me put it in standard form by moving the x, this term, to the left. When I move it to the left, it's going to become positive 1 over 4x plus y equals 1. All I did is move this term right here to the left and it became positive. Okay? Moví este término para la izquierda que lo cambió a positivo para que esté en la misma forma de esta respuesta que todos tienen x y y en el mismo lado. Alright, now the last step is actually easy. To get rid of this fraction, I'm going to multiply both sides, the whole thing, everything you see here, by the reciprocal of this fraction, which would be 4 over 1, which is 4. And that's going to give me my answer. Okay, para quitar esa fracción, 1 sobre 4, okay, by the way, the reason I'm doing that is because in standard form, you're not supposed to have any fractions. All right, whatever. You may have seen that last year. Quick reminder. But in standard form, you're not supposed to have fractions. Ok, cuando está en standard form, no está supuesto de tener fracciones. Así que lo que voy a hacer es, I don't even know if I wrote this right. Let me put that. Ok, lo que voy a hacer es, para quitar esta fracción, multiplicar los dos lados de la ecuación por el recíproco de 1 sobre 4, que sería 4 sobre 1, que es equivalente a 4. Alright, so if I multiply everything here by 4 and everything here by 4, 4 times 1 over 4 will give you positive 1. So that'll give me just 1x and you don't write the 1. Plus 4y equals 4. And that's my answer. X plus 4y equals 4, which is right here. 4 por 1 sobre 4 me daría 4 sobre 4, que es equivalente a 1, y el 1 no se escribe. Y lo demás es obvio. Así que ahí está la respuesta. Alright, moving on. We're almost done. A couple more to go. Alright, if triangle KLM is congruent to triangle NOP, find the perimeter. I really hope you remember what perimeter is from your middle school days. Back in the good old days of middle school. Back before the Rona. Alright, so perimeter is when the distance around the outside of a figure. So the perimeter is when you add up all the sides. Okay, el perímetro es cuando es la distancia alrededor de la figura. Para encontrar el perímetro se tiene que sumar todos los lados. Alright, so look, first of all it says if triangle KLM is congruent to triangle NOP. So both triangles are congruent. Why is that important? Because that tells me that if this side is 8, that means this side is 8. And if this side is 15, this side is also 15. So once I figure out what x is, I can just plug it into either one, add up all the sides, and I'll have my answer. Okay, si los dos triángulos son congruentes, eso quiere decir que si este lado es 8, este lado también es 8. Y si este lado es 15, este también es 15. Así que a la vez que encuentro el valor de x, simplemente lo tengo que sustituir para encontrar cuánto mide este lado y sumar todos los lados. Alright, so look, for the sake of time, let me speed it up, alright? The answer is right there. Just make 2x minus 8 equal to x plus 4 to solve for x, and then plug it in and add up all sides. Let me move on, okay? Alright, look at this one. You make sure you know how to find all 4 angle measures, alright? The key is knowing how to set this up. Again, if it's on my review, it is on the test, just with different numbers. Don't think it's not going to be on the test. It's definitely on the test, okay? Esto está en el examen. Alright, so first of all, notice this line here and this line here. Gee, I wonder why that's there. What could it possibly mean? Oh, wait, I remember. That means this is an isosceles triangle. That means that this side equals this side, and this angle equals this angle. Hey! Isn't math fun? Okay. Alright, so, esto es un triángulo isósceles. ¿Cómo yo lo sé? Porque esta rayita te dice que este lado es equivalente a este lado y este ángulo es equivalente a este ángulo. Next question. When you add up all the angles of a triangle, what does it always have to equal? Maybe we could start with that. Yeah, that is what I would start with. Alright, right here. When you add up all the angles of a triangle, it's got to equal 180. That's your starting point. So this angle plus this angle, or you could just multiply it times 2, which is what I did there, plus this angle, when you add them all up, it's got to equal 180. You use that equation to solve for x. Once you know what x is, you would plug it in here and here to find out what all these angles are. Okay, and how about this one? We also got to figure out this angle right here. Alright, so once you know that x equals 14, I would plug it in right here and do 3 times 14 plus 4. That's what I'm doing right here. Alright, that tells me that this angle right here is 46 degrees. Okay, so remember that right here you have a linear, let me try that again. Right here you have a linear pair. A linear pair is when you have two angles next to each other that form a straight line. So if this angle right here is 46 degrees, that means this one right here has to be 180 minus 46, which is what I did right here, which gives me 134 degrees. Because together they got to add up to 180 degrees because a straight line is always 180. Make sure you know that because that is on the test. Okay. Ok, así que si como este es un triángulo isósceles, este ángulo aquí mide igual que este ángulo aquí. Y la manera de empezar el problema es con una ecuación que te dice que la suma de estos tres ángulos siempre te tiene que dar 180, que es lo que está escrito aquí. Esa ecuación se usa para encontrar el valor de x. A la vez que sabes el valor de x, se puede sustituir aquí y aquí para saber todos los ángulos internos del triángulo, pero todavía falta este ángulo aquí afuera. Y se tienen que recordar, primero que nada, cuando sustituyo el valor de x, 14, aquí para este ángulo me va a dar 46 grados. Ok, así que lo que tienen que recordarse, eso no me salió bien, pero es que si este de 46 grados está formando una pareja lineal con este ángulo que está aquí en el exterior, y una pareja lineal siempre te tiene que dar una suma de 180 grados, porque una línea recta siempre mide 180 grados. Así que para encontrar el ángulo que falta, se haría 180 menos 46, y eso te dice que este ángulo aquí mide 134. All right. Number 19 is another construction that they put in there to complicate my life because it's being done in a super unusual, overly confusing way for no good reason at all. All right, but let me explain how to do this, how to answer this question, right? All right, first of all, let me play the video that shows what they're trying to do, and then I'll show you how they're trying to confuse you. And trust me, it confused me. I had to ask someone else on this one because it's such a weird question. All right, here we go. So look at the video. The video is showing how it's supposed to be done by a normal person that's not trying to confuse you. The test is showing you how a not normal person would do it to try to confuse you. All right, what they're doing is drawing a perpendicular bisector to segment PQ. A perpendicular bisector. That means that it's perpendicular, so it creates a 90-degree angle, and it's a bisector, so it's going through the middle of this segment. This is the way it's supposed to be done. Again, a normal person would do it this way. This is not the way it's normally done. Okay, I was confused by it. Like, what are they trying to do here? Okay, so look, let me tell you what they're trying to do to confuse you. First of all, these points out here, the F and the G, are completely unnecessary. It's there to throw you off. Okay, if you're going to draw a perpendicular bisector, you would use these points that are here, W and Y, and you would not draw a complete circle. Like if you look at this arc here and this arc over here, that's all you need to draw. But in this picture, they did the arc by doing the entire circle like this, which is unnecessary and makes it more confusing. Okay, what else? And then once you draw those arcs, you put the compass on top of each of these points to draw these lines that create an X that's exactly in the middle and allows you to create the perpendicular bisector. Okay, so again, this circle is unnecessary and these points are unnecessary, but what they're trying to do is to draw a line that's the perpendicular bisector of segment WY, and the correct answer, oh, there's two correct answers, A and C. So let me look at the correct answers again here. So letter A says, the first step of the construction is to draw a circle with center X. All right. So listen, this is another question where I'm not disguising the answer. It's the same answer on the test. All right. Because this question is confusing enough as it is, and we have not really practiced much of constructions. All right. However, the only thing is it's not going to be in the same order. But on the test, the answer is letter A. I'm sorry. The answer is the first step of the construction is to draw a circle with center X. All right, which again is not the normal way to do it, but whatever, that's how it is on the test. And the other answer is that the second step of the construction is to draw the perpendicular bisector of segment WY. Listen, to not waste any more time on this question, which is a horrible question, I'm just telling you right now, I'm giving you the answer on the test. There's no reason why anybody should get it wrong unless you just really don't care that much about your grade. Because if the teacher's giving you the answer on a question, you need to get that one right. Okay, let me just repeat this in Spanish and then we'll move on so we could finish this. Okay, la En el examen, ¿ok? Le estoy dando la respuesta para esta pregunta. Lo que están haciendo es la construcción de una línea del bisector perpendicular al segmento PQ. En el video o en el diagrama, el bisector perpendicular al segmento WY, ¿ok? Um, pero como lo hicieron, no es la manera que normalmente se hace. No es necesario dibujar ese círculo. Normalmente solamente se dibuja estos arcos. ¿Ok? Pero en el examen, así como lo hicieron, y le estoy dando la respuesta, lo único es que no está en esta orden. Así que no memoricen que es A y C. ¿Ok? Así que el primer paso de la construcción es dibujar un círculo con el centro X y el segundo paso de la construcción es dibujar el bisector perpendicular al segmento WY. All right, let me move on. All right, two more questions for this review. Line segment AB is rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise about point B. Counterclockwise is this way to the left. To form line segment A prime B prime. Which statement best describes the line segment? To save time, if I rotate that 90 degrees counterclockwise, you're going to get this segment, and they got to be perpendicular. All right. I think if you know what perpendicular is and you know what 90 degrees is, that's a pretty easy question, so let's not waste too much time. Please do not ask me on the test, hey, mister, what does skew mean? I always get somebody to ask me that every year. Even though I went over that that's not the answer, I'm still going to have somebody, no matter how many times I say it. Please don't be that person that asks me what skew is. Now one of you guys is going to do it just to be funny. All right, so they're going to be perpendicular, okay? Si el segmento AB se rota 90 grados en contra del reloj alrededor del punto B, te daría este segmento A', B', ¿ok? Y ¿qué declaración mejor describe esos segmentos? Van a ser líneas perpendicular. No me pregunten en el examen qué es esta palabra, porque esa palabra no es la respuesta. All right, moving on. Last question. Okay, which steps need to be taken so that trapezoid ABCD can be transformed to overlap trapezoid A', B', C', D' so that their vertices match? Okay, ¿qué pasos se tienen que hacer para que esta figura esté encima de esta figura? All right, for the sake of time, I'm going to show the answer and just go over the answer because otherwise we're going to be here forever. All right, déjame poner la respuesta para no gastar más tiempo. All right, so rotate trapezoid ABCD 90 degrees counterclockwise and then reflect it across the x-axis. Okay, so if you rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise, it's going to look something like this. And then reflect it over the x-axis and it'll look like this. Listen, for this question, it's not necessary to be getting all the exact coordinates, so don't waste your time doing that. If you look at the other answer choices, they don't. This is the only, from what I remember, this is the only one that lines up anywhere near. Okay, when you have more time, when you're studying, I would look at the other answer choices and make sure you're clear. If you have any questions, you could always message me before the exam, and I can go over if you have any doubts. But to go over each one of these answer choices will take me another 5 or 10 minutes, and this video is already long enough as it is, so I'm going to leave it there, okay? En esta pregunta, la respuesta B es la única que pone la figura encima de esta figura. No es necesario coger los detalles de cada vértice, ¿ok? Así que no se gasten el tiempo con eso. Simplemente con tener una idea de dónde va a estar cuando se hace una rotación de 90 grados en contra del reloj y una reflexión sobre el axis de X. Con solamente eso pueden hacer la respuesta, ¿ok? All right, guys, this concludes section 1 of the review for your mid-year assessment. Next class, we're going to do section 2. La próxima clase, vamos a hacer sección 2. You do not have any homework for today, okay? The only homework I will tell you to do is to study this review and look it over. You don't have to study it for 2 hours or anything. Just look it over a few minutes. Maybe 30 minutes would be great, okay? So for today, no homework. Next class, we'll do section 2, okay? Para hoy no hay tarea, en la próxima clase vamos a hacer sección 2. Lo único que les recomiendo es que estudien esto un poco para la tarea. 15 minutos, media hora, miren el repaso y miren lo que no entienden. Estudienlo un poco. All right, guys. Hope you guys all have a great day, and I'll see you next class for section 2.